All right, welcome back to The Experience. This is our weekly podcast that we'll be doing throughout the college basketball season. My name's Ray Myrna. I have my co-host with me here, Lauren Kirschman. And today we're bringing on a guy who really took the college basketball world by storm last year along with his team. That's the head coach of the VCU Rams, Shaka Smart. Shaka, thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, you know it. Hey, before we start with anything else, I was going to ask you if you could please explain to the listeners out there and maybe everyone else, how important was Monica King in your life? Just who is she and how did she shape you?
That's my mom. She's really everything to me. She raised me by herself along with my three brothers and really taught me all the things that make me who I am today. She's also really been a terrific influence in my coaching career because she has a terrific feel for teamwork and building teams and leadership. So she's been everything, right?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Hey, Ed Nixon, Joey Rodriguez, Jamie Skeen, and Brandon Roselle. How do you replace those guys? Is it even possible?
Well, that's one of the beauties of college basketball, college sports really in general, is that players move on, and players graduate, and new guys have to step up. We had our first game the other night, and Darius Diaz, who had backed up Joey Rodriguez for 2 years, all of a sudden found himself playing 37 minutes. And he said to me after the game, he said, "Coach, I've never played that long in my entire life." So just some new roles for some of our guys. It's something where when they're playing in a backup role, they want to play more. And now you're in a situation where you got what you asked for, so now you got to produce.
What are those graduated players up to now?
Well, they did all graduate, all four of our seniors. So that was the biggest thing for me is we missed a lot of school in March, the NCAA tournament run. In fact, when we played in Dayton and then Chicago in the first 3 rounds, we were gone for a solid week. So it was a challenge during the month of April, particularly with some of the celebrations that were going on. Joey Rodriguez was seemingly on every award show and invited to the White House and all over the place. But we got their degrees on time, and they all were offered professional contracts. Jamie Skeen is playing France. He's actually with Tony Parker's team over in France, who Tony Parker is playing with because of the lockout. Brandon Roselle is in the D League, and, doing really well with some of the early tryouts and early reports there. Joey Rodriguez was playing in Turkey. He came back for a short time because he and his fiance just had a baby, so he's in Richmond now for the short term. And then Ed Nixon was played shortly in Macedonia. He learned that playing overseas isn't quite the same as playing at VCU, so he's back over here. He's working actually probably to a different situation overseas.
Okay. Hey, talk about Javante Reddick and DJ Haley. They're your front court guys this year. They're two sophomores, and I know you know that I've always really liked Javante Reddick, and I see that he had a big game for you the other night against St. Francis. Can you talk about both of those guys and how maybe they're a little different than the big guys in your league that you face?
Well, I've really been pleased, Ray, with the progress they've made. They've only been here about 16 months, and in that time, they've really made terrific strides, both of them. And they're completely different players, but they did come in together. They do both play on the front court. Javante's a guy who has unbelievable athleticism and great skill. DJ is a cerebral player who has terrific size. He's 6'11", 250. And, both of them together, I think, could be terrific players in this league. But like most sophomores, they're right in the middle of that transformation. They've made great strides. Since last year, they were inconsistent as freshmen, as all freshmen are. This year, we need them to be night in, night out, solid players for us. And if the early practices and the first game are any indication, they're going to be that.
No doubt, no doubt. Hey, in the run to the tournament, to the Final Four last year, a lot of people I don't think realized what you guys had done the year before. Can you talk about that maybe and how that maybe helped your guys the following year when they were in the NCAA tournament?
Well, the year before, we had a very talented team. Probably in terms of raw talent, right? We had more of it my first year at VCU. The year before, we went to the Final Four because we had Larry Sanders, who was just an unbelievable talent, 6'10", 225 pounds, 7'7" wingspan, and ended up leaving early and becoming the 15th pick in the NBA draft. Just a big time talent. Plays for the Milwaukee Bucks now. But we had a good year. We went 27-9, which I'm sure any coach would certainly take that in the first year. But we came up just short of making the NIT. People felt like we got snubbed, but it is what it is, and we had to move on. So we ended up playing a tournament called the College Basketball Invitational. It was tough because we had such lofty goals. It was tough at first getting our guys to motivate for that tournament, but we played well. We really were able to play some of our younger guys more, and we won the tournament. In fact, at the end of the tournament, we won by beating St. Louis 2 games in a row, once at home and then once at their place. So it was a great experience, and I think what we did in the postseason really helped us catapult into a terrific offseason with some big goals going into last year.
What's the main thing you took away from your time with Coach Oliver Purnell?
Oh, I took so much away from working for Oliver, Lauren. I worked for him for 4 years, 2 at University of Dayton, and then 2 at Clemson. And probably the biggest thing, if I had to pick one thing, was, or is, because I use it every day, just the unbelievable optimism and positivity that he approaches his job with. And he really, really is a glass half full type of guy. He always sees the positive potential in people and in situations. And I really believe that that's helped his career be so successful because, in so many ways that becomes somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy for him.
Hey, you were hired on April 2nd of 2009, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now April 2nd of 2007, did you ever, and I know you're a positive guy, I know you have goals and you believe in your goals and you go after them. Did you ever imagine that on April 2nd of 2011 you'd be walking out in front of 75,000 with your team to play against Butler?
Well, no, you never really imagine those sorts of things, Ray. I mean, you strive for them and you reach for them, and you have big goals. Every year, as you know, coaches go to the Final Four as spectators, and every time I've gone to the Final Four, I've thought to myself, wow, it would be phenomenal to coach at this level. But no, I don't think I imagined it, but at the same time, as you mentioned, I'm a pretty positive guy. I've got big goals. We still do. There's a lot of things that we still want to do, and we're excited about the future here.
Hey, going back a bit in time, when you made your decision to go play for Coach Brown at Kenyon, can you talk about that experience, Shaka, and maybe how it helped inform the decision that you had to make this past spring to whether to leave VCU or stay and coach your guys?
Well, I went to play for Bill Brown, who's one of my main mentors at Kenyon College out of high school. I went to high school in the Madison, Wisconsin area, and I knew I wanted to get away to go to college, so looked at some schools on the East Coast and Kenyon's in Ohio, and then one on the West Coast. Went to Kenyon primarily because of Coach Brown. He was just such a terrific uh, father figure for me, even during the recruiting process. Developed a great relationship with him. And then, unfortunately, after my first year, he left. So I went to something that a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of student athletes in college basketball and other college sports have to go through, which is a coaching change. And when the primary reason that you went to the school you're at is because of the coach, it really rocks your world. I remember being in tears and being so upset that he left. I was happy for him because he really got a terrific opportunity. But it really affected where I was in life. But I ended up having a really good experience at Kenyon, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Learned so much on the court and also in the classroom. But how does that relate to my decision this past spring? I guess it kind of factored in, Ray, in terms of just thinking about if I was to leave, how it would affect other people. But to be honest with you, I've never seriously considered leaving, so it didn't really get to that point. I just didn't feel like it made sense to me or to anyone here at VCU. Just had gone to the Final Four, and a lot of these young guys we just brought in here to come back and literally the next day or 2 days later just get up and leave. It didn't seem right to me. It didn't seem like the proper move. So plus I just feel like we have so much left to accomplish here at VCU.
Is there I talked to Keith Dambrot the other day about the kind of kid he looks for, at Akron. He looks for, he calls it like my type of kid. Have you developed is there a type of kid that you look for VCU when you're out recruiting?
No doubt about it. I have a profile right here on my wall with all the characteristics that we're looking for. So it's definitely a specific type of kid that we want to recruit. Now, the hard thing, Ray, is other people want that kid too.
Right.
It's very competitive, and you're not always going to get, if there's 15 attributes that we're looking for, you're not always going to get all 15 finished product. Whereas, maybe at the highest level, you can get that if you do a great job and you're able to beat out some other schools. Here at VCU, we have to make sure that we're looking just as much for the potential to realize excellence in all those attributes, not necessarily guys that are all the way there. Because, again, if you're tough and you have high character, you're extremely coachable, you're highly motivated, you're a great student, you have a great basketball IQ, you love the game, and you're 6'9", 230 pounds. Those guys are going to be tough to get.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Hey, how early do you start recruiting kids? Like when with the new rules, that could help a guy like you, couldn't it? Because you can try to develop relationships earlier with the contact being allowed at a greater, you have more room for contacting kids for them contacting you. Are those going to help a guy like you, a guy at your level?
Well, the rules are what you make out of them, and there's certain things in the rules as they just adjusted them that will help us. There's other things that might not help us. In some ways, in a strange type of way, Ray, when the rules are more restrictive, it can benefit schools that work a little bit harder and look under the cracks a little bit better. There's, for instance, for the past several years, coaches haven't been able to go on the road to AAU tournaments in April, and 90% of the coaches were up in arms about that and upset that we couldn't go do that. Actually, for us, not that we didn't want to go out and see kids, but it was a huge advantage because a lot of the guys that we were recruiting, if they had been seen in April by all the BCS level schools, we might not have been in as good a shape, but it kind of brought us 2 or 3 months with them between April and July to continue to be the main school recruiting them and get ahead. And some of those guys were able to get them committed before they even played in July. Whereas if they'd have played in April, kind of blown up in front of not just the coaches, but all the scouting services, then it might have been a different story in their recruitment.
How important is evaluation for you guys, and how confident are you guys on your staff at the job you do? Because I mean, personally speaking, you do a terrific job. I see those guys that I believe should have gone to the highest level, ending up at VCU. How is there a system? Do the assistants go out and see guys and then tell you? Are you constantly rotating? Is somebody with you on the road at all times? Do you go by yourself? Can you just talk a little bit about the evaluation process?
Well, it's a great question, Ram, and it would be different if it was all we did.
Right.
If 100% of our job was evaluating and recruiting, then it would be maybe a different process. But as you know, we have to evaluate and recruit at the same time that we're coaching, and we're doing scouting reports, and we're doing game prep, we're doing individual development. And honestly, as important as recruiting is, in our program, we really make an effort to put player development, and not just on the court, but off the court as well, ahead of even recruiting. And that may sound backwards to certain people, but to us, it doesn't make sense to, as soon as we get a guy, turn the majority of our attention on getting the next guy. So our system in July is we go out on the road. We have written evaluations that we do. We actually use the iPad now. So there's an app on there. We do a shot chart for every game of the key recruits, the main guys we're looking at. Obviously, if you're watching 5 or 6 guys in a game, you can't chart them all. But we keep a lot of data, gather a lot of data, and then we evaluate them on about 10 different characteristics, such as basketball IQ, how tough they are, how competitive they are, selfishness. The shot chart really helps us with the shooting. You're recruiting a kid that's supposed to be a great shooter, but then he charted 5 games and he's 3 for 30 from the 3-point line.
Right.
That should raise some eyebrows. So we do that in July, and then during the school year, it's a little tough, again, because there's just so much going on and the season's going on. But we really try to stay organized and communicate at a high level as a staff throughout the season, because I really believe, Ray, the season is when you can really get ahead in recruiting if you're organized, because so many people aren't focused on recruiting quite as much because they're trying to win games, and understandably so. But if you're organized and you meet every week and your assistants are on the same page, I think you can make some progress. That's how we sign guys like Reddick and Haley. Those guys are spring signees, and you look back on it, it's amazing how major schools would have liked to have signed those guys in April of their senior year. And I'm not saying that they're pros or All-Americans, but sophomores, those guys are pretty good players now.
I saw Reddick at Quality in West Virginia at a tournament, and I was just like, wow. And when I went up to him, I was like, who's recruiting? And you guys were the first school he mentioned. And without a doubt, it's amazing to me that the kids that still fall through the cracks. But I think Lauren has a question for you here about.
Oh yeah. How would you describe your style of play that you're bringing these players into?
Well, one word how we describe it, Lauren, and that's havoc. And I talked about wreaking havoc on our opponents in my opening press conference. I talked about how fast we were going to play and the fact that we were going to press and an exciting style of play. And one thing that we do take a lot of pride in is when people get coaching jobs and new staff come in, a lot of times they talk about playing fast and talk about having an exciting style and pressing. But we've done it. we've done it over the first 2 years, and I would say we've been pretty successful at it. We set a conference record this past year for most points scored. The last 2 years, we've set conference records for three-point shooting, for steals, for turnovers forced. So we really try to play. Teams play faster than they want to play. Try to take teams out of their style. Everybody practices their way. So what we try to do is make sure that in our practice we can prepare to take teams out of their way of playing so that they're a little bit less comfortable. I think if you allow teams to play at a high comfort level, you're setting yourself up, for them to be able to play well. And so that's a brief description of Havoc.
Hey, offensively, your kids must love to play for you because can you talk about, the fact that if your kid has an open shot, you want him to take it. In fact, he might get pulled for not taking that open shot more so than maybe taking a questionable shot. Is that not correct?
Yes, and it's really a double-edged sword, right? It's in my systems. Sometimes look at me like I'm crazy because you really give these guys unbelievable freedom to shoot and to play. The other night in our opener, Troy Daniels, who played very, very limited minutes his first 2 years, now he's a junior and he's in the starting lineup. He shot 15 threes.
Right.
Whenever the guy's open, he shoots. And he made 5 of them, which is pretty good. He can do even better than that. But I try to instill a lot of confidence in the guys. Try to get them to play without looking over their shoulder. But the stage that we're at right now is trying to get our guys to understand, hey, to whom much is given, much is expected. And it's not like you can just go out there and play like you're on the playground. You still, there's an expectation that you're going to play extremely hard on defense, that you're going to execute at a high level, that you're going to follow the plan, and that you're going to play unselfishly. And if you do those things, then most definitely go ahead and shoot. Go ahead and get your game off because that's what you came here to do.
Hey, speaking of getting his game on, I know you're excited about a kid named Briante Weber. How's he looked up to this point, and do you see him developing? I know he got maybe 10 minutes in the first game the other night.
I'm excited about him. He's the most energetic person I've ever met in my life. And that's on and off the court. So what that can do for us is really translate to defensive pressure, defensive havoc. He also is very quick with the basketball. So he's going to be a really good player here. The challenge for Bree is how much stronger can he get over the season, over the off season, going into his sophomore year. He's about 150 pounds soaking wet right now at 6'2".
Right.
So he's a string bean, but he can really provide energy for us, particularly on the defensive end. I think we'll be able to put him on some people and really allow him to do what he does on defense.
Hey, going forward here, next few weeks, what are some of the challenges for you guys? Who are you looking at as far as opponents?
Well, we've got a really exciting week coming up. We play a tournament, ESPN tournament called the Charleston Classic, and it's a very good field in Charleston. We open up with Seton Hall. That's on Thursday. I believe the game's on ESPNU at I think 5:30. It's a great field down there. The other teams are Georgia Tech, St. Joe's, Tulsa, Western Kentucky, LSU, and Northwestern. So some very good basketball teams, some well-coached teams. And as I told our guys after the game against St. Francis, they were stepping up in weight class. So
yeah,
they have to come ready to play and ready to compete at a high level. We're excited. We're going to learn a lot about ourselves down in Charleston. And then week after that, Ray, I don't know what the scheduler was thinking, but we have 2 road games. We go to Western Kentucky, which is a very, very tough place to play, and then we play at Alabama, who's one of the top 15 teams in the country. So we'll be away from home for a while, but like I said, we're going to learn quite a bit about ourselves.
Okay, I'll hit you with one last question. What's fatherhood been like for you?
It's been very humbling. It's been a terrific learning experience. I enjoyed every second of it. Just really excited about my daughter and get a chance to see her grow and learn every step of the way. She's 7 weeks old today. She's already running the house. She's definitely in charge. I've been demoted to assistant coach.
There you go.
She's a lot of fun. And like I said, it's just so much fun seeing her grow and learn. She's just getting to that point where she's starting to smile. So, as everyone has already told me, she's got me wrapped around her little finger.
And that's the way it's supposed to be, man. Hey, Shaka, we really appreciate you joining us. Best of luck this week, and we'll definitely be watching tournament in Charleston there on ESPNU. Best of luck, and again, thanks again, man.